Okay, so I'm so glad to be speaking with you guys. I had seen Eternals on opening night, so I am very versed in all the details of it. I understand your guys's a bulk of your guys's work was in the third act. Can you tell me what you may have done that was before the third act to kind of touch on those bits first before focusing on that big last part of the film?
Yeah, it gets a little bit bitsy because we ended up picking up various bits and pieces to help the filmmakers get the thing finished. And but I suppose if you take out of the picture the third act, you know, all the volcanic island stuff, we did the ancient Aztec city, that whole sequence, which finishes with the Eternals being sort of sent off by Ajax in their own individual ways. We did a scene in an ice cave with the deviants, just straight after Ajax being killed by Icarus, where the deviants transform, where they use the cosmic energy to have, sort of start their evolutionary process. Short scene, but entirely CG. We did a little scene on Century 6 when Arishem's explaining the whole backstory to Cersei, and he's talking about how the deviants evolve. And there's this kind of like other planet scene where there's like Century 6 dinosaurs and deviants and some villages and things. That was a fun thing. We did the mid-credit scene with Eros and Pip the Troll. I'm forgetting a whole lot of stuff here.
So you guys did Pip? We
did Pip. Yeah, we did Pip.
How
we did
fun.
We did Crow. Yeah, no, yeah, and it was one of those ones where, you know, there was a sense that maybe this character is going to show up and I mean, I don't know. I just get it. All I know is what I see. But you were kind of building a character that needed to live on potentially past the specific needs of the piece that you were doing.
So when you guys did, oh, sorry, I didn't know there was more to that. I was just gonna say, when you guys had designed him, then did you know that it was Patton Oswalt that was going to be the person you're designing it for?
Yeah, because I think we got a couple of frames of concept art, like a front view and a back view, and then we got the footage of the scene, and Patton was actually on set when they filmed the sequence. He was actually I think he had knee pads on, and he was on his knees so that his head was at the right height. And he was very funny, and I think they kind of they ad-libbed some of that scene. There's some moments in there when it's a little bit freeform, which is nice.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Is that the first time you've ever worked on an after credit scene itself? I know you've done extensive work, but usually you are focused on the main film. Have you ever worked on an after credit scene before this?
Yeah, we have.
Definitely I think it was on Black Widow, right? I can't remember. I know that Sean worked on the sorry, the credit scene when you have Nick Fury in space and you realize that the Nick Fury that this is in Spider-Man, I think.
Yeah, I think Spider-Man
Far From Home. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and that was done here as well.
Nice. That's awesome. So you got to make that whole space station. Obviously not what we're talking about, but that's fun.
Yeah.
So then, to focus more on Eternal, Sidney, what exactly does your job involve? Because I know you guys have separate titles. Matt's the VFX supervisor and you are like animation supervisor. So do you guys both add different bits to the overall thing, or do you work together as a team?
It's more of a complementary thing. So Matt is at the beginning and at the end of it, and I'm in the middle. So basically, Matt goes into telling the team and having the conversation with the client as to what they want asset-wise. So what are the different elements that are needed for the movie, and in terms of character, what are the characters that we're going to be using? Making sure that they are as close as possible to the reference, the real actors that we are going from, and the environment, all that jazz that I honestly, goes way over my head. And then when those stuff are ready, what we call asset, it comes to us. We rig them to make sure that we can make them move as we want to, and we animate them, the purpose being just as blankly as possible to be able to fool the audience in believing that what they see is real. That's basically the bulk of it. Obviously, the hardest part of that is when we have to do that on real humans, rather than doing that on creatures, because there are some creatures, you see them, you know they are CG. It's not a dog. A deviant is not a dog when it's a battle creature. But when you see Macari, you see Fastos, you see Icaris, you see Thena, it's the great joy for us as animators is when the audience is not capable of telling us when they saw the real actor and when they saw the CG version of it. And that's where we live. That's what we do. So we try to do that motion-wise, making sure that the expressions are not cartoony, that when you see it, really you don't see the difference. And then all of that goes to Matt again for the final icing on the cake that they put on that, rendering, and all of that. So we are on the making move and, making sure that it's actually articulated and then making it move in a convincing way. That's where I live.
And it is the movement, but it's a huge part of the overall effect of all the work that we do, I think. And even though when Sidney and his team are doing the work, they're working with very kind of simplified versions of the creatures and the characters, so that they can move fast. That they are easy to manipulate, and they don't have a lot of we just call it model weight that will be slow to manipulate on the computer. So they don't necessarily have that photoreal appearance, but still, I think if the movement is right, that's a big part of the work done. Just getting that in place.
Were you guys involved with the sequences of Macari running, like the fast sequences? Mm-hmm. Can you tell me about how you put that together? And because to me, it felt very different from speedster scenes and fast scenes in other films. Was that something that you were trying to follow Chloe's direction and match her vision with that speed? Or were you guys trying to do something yourselves to be like, oh, let's make it look a little bit different? And exactly what did you do, really?
One thing that is great, I keep on saying that, but one thing that is great with working with Marvel is that they invite us at the table. They are always eager to have a fresh eye, to add to what they already have. So, and they share that with us. So we nurture each other in that way. So they come with the idea that they want Macari to go fast. And I remember that it was Nate Moore that first engaged us on that path, saying, I want to see Macari being fast, because we said that a lot, but we haven't quite seen her being fast in action. And that, for an animator, is all we need. Like, you tell us, you are lacking this, we go crazy. And that's basically, so I, myself and the team, we sometimes even have moment of absence in a call when the client is talking, Victoria is saying something, or Nate is saying something, or Zoe is saying something. And what is happening in the head is that a bunch of images coming from wherever, start to come together. And when we meet with the team, it's like, okay, let's make it move fast, but we don't want it to look like Quicksilver. We don't want it to look like the Flash. We don't want it to look like, what is it? And obviously, because we are in the business, we have been thinking about those things. And one thing that I had in my mind was the impression. I have my hand here. If I move fast, you still have for a microsecond the feeling that my hand is where it is. It is, but it's already moved. And that was we call that in French persistence rétinienne. I don't know the word in English, but it's like your eye cannot look past a certain speed. You always got, basically whatever you see is in the past, right? So we just try to play with that a little bit. So Makari is here, but she moves so fast that she's already away. And we developed that a little bit. You see that a lot in the fight that she has with Icarus, because sometimes Icarus shoots at her. You see her in a distance, but she's already in front of him, and he just didn't notice. So, and that makes her invincible in a way.
Yeah.
He had to catch her before she came, and she was too fast to stop herself. That's the only way he managed to catch her. Otherwise, you can't, because she's always gone when you think that she's somewhere. So that was what we try to play with when it comes to Makari.
And they made for quite complicated shots to produce, because oftentimes Sidney would have multiple Makaris in the scene, so that there might be 3 or 4 actual copies of Makari, so that they can all be in these different places at the same time, and you just get the little glimpses. So I think we managed to orchestrate it so that you never see 2 Makaris stopped at the same time. One of them, the others are always moving, but they just became incredibly complicated shots to manage. But that's all right. That's what we're here to do.
That's the other part of our collaboration. We get white hair from trying to think of something different, and we pass the baton of the white hair coming to Matt by, okay, how am I going to make this good idea believable? And that's where we have to be a lot in the same room, and because Matt can tell us physically, this is believable, this is achievable, and this is not. So another good example of that, and I go away from Makari for a second, but Tiamat Rising, that was another part where we got involved heavily, because they had the rising of Tiamat, right? They already had a previs of that and everything. But Chloe came and said that she wanted that to be more epic. Like I said, the same thing happens, and we go crazy, we go think left and right, and we come up with an idea of the water start to funnel. We know that, but the fingers are breaking the sea floor, and we see that from under the sea, and they come out, right? But that is something, what we wanted was the water to fall, to break in two, just like in the 10 commandments, right? Like Moses, like open the water in two. But it's something that Matt and co had to stop us from doing. Let's try to tell the same story, but we cannot have the water breaking in half, because nothing would be explaining that. So those are the type of stuff where we have a lot of collaboration going on. So we keep having the same idea, we still have the same result, but in a convincing and believable way. Do not let animators run free. You're gonna have fun, but once you start questioning the reality of it, you go like, hey, hang on a second. But yeah, so that's basically it.
Is this the first time that you guys worked as a team, the two of you specifically?
No.
Oh, no, we go back. I think we definitely did Endgame and Infinity War together. Yeah, and we were both on Black Widow a little bit. Yeah, I
did a little bit of Independence Day, but I was just an animator, senior animator back then.
Yeah, that's right. Independence Day Resurgence. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, like you said, you guys both worked on, Infinity War and Endgame together, and those are obviously huge. The biggest thing, that's behind us and really ends one phase, and Eternals is starting something else entirely. And the, characters might be similar or, remind the audience of certain things, but the tone of the overall movie and the way that things are depicted, I think is very different. What do you guys think was the biggest thing that you had to try to fold into this that you haven't done in a previous Marvel project?
Yeah, well, a lot of that kind of the sense that those sensibilities really come back to the director, to Chloe Zhao. That's her style of filmmaking. That's what she brought to bear from her more art house endeavors. Films I love, like The Rider and Nomadland, wonderful films. And so there's an aspect of that. For us, it's about her visual language, the fact that she has a very established visual language, the way that she shoots, the way that she frames things, the way that her cameras move. There's a very strong natural component to that. Like, she doesn't like to move a camera in a way that a person can't move. She wants us to really feel as an audience that we are there witnessing this scene unfolding before us. So we had to really work within that visual language for our fully CG shots to make sure that they intercut with the stuff that she'd shot. I think for the beach fight, I think it's worked out about 43% of those shots are fully CG or predominantly CG, because they just couldn't get all the action that they needed to shoot on the location. But very much we're hoping that our shots are indistinguishable to the audience in terms of that visual language. So yeah, there's a lot we had to pick up. Then wide angle lenses, deep focus, no lens flares, or
it's
a lot.
It's a challenge for them before it becomes a challenge for us. But like we were saying, they bring that challenge to us as well, because they are not pretending, oh, we know exactly what how we want that to look. It's let's try to find a visual language that is different from the rest of what we have done before. So that what was great. So for instance, the cosmic energy that Matt and Stefan thoroughly developed for the Eternals, that was, for instance, the way Icarus shoots its beams. You have Superman that shoots beam. You have so many characters that shoot beams. How are you going to make those ones different? So designing a cosmic energy in the sensibility of Chloe was part of what was made different. So she brought her a style of filming, as Matt was saying, a visual language. And on top of that, we needed to make sure that the way we are creating those things that don't exist yet, superpowers, we had to try to make it feel different as well. So the cosmic energy were part of it. And the other thing is, if you noticed, this is probably one of the only, it's to me at least, one of the first Marvel movies where two superhero fighting are not breaking the world, right? So you feel their speed, you feel the impact when they are fighting, but hey, they are not damaging the thing so much that they go through cars and a bunch of it's not that, but yet the movie shows you that these Eternals being are as powerful as anybody else. It just comes with a sense of elegance in the way they are moving that we weren't used to seeing before. So making sure that was communicated. You still feel the power, you still feel the energy, but the way those fights are happening are not exactly like the whole fighting Thor. Being able to feel those differences were what we try to add to what we were producing, so that you feel the difference between the Eternals and the Avengers, for instance.
Yeah, and you had mentioned that you guys mentioned that you worked on, the after credit scene with Pip. But did you guys work on the sword, the after credit scene where the sword kind of moves, the second after credit scene, or is that not your guys' visual?
No, I don't know who did that actually.
Yeah, I was really interested, but
yeah.
It's also fun to know that you had to make Patton Oswalt even shorter than he already was.
Yeah.
So there's
what was great was that he and Harry Styles were ad-libbing through all that. They had a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. Did you guys what is a shot or a scene that you guys know that was fully CGI? I know that you guys did the Aztec City, you did stuff like that. But is there anything that you felt like was fully CGI that was a real challenge for you guys? That's something that maybe you felt like it was a little bit harder than things you've done in the past?
Quite a lot falls into that camp, because we want our full CGI work to be indistinguishable to the audience and not break the suspension of disbelief for them. So, I mean, the stuff that where that really becomes a crunch is with the digi-double work, with high-end digi-double work of Icarus and Thena, both in the fight in the forest outside the Aztec city, where Thena goes mad worry for the first time, and starts attacking the other Eternals. In the fight between Icarus and Thena in the bridge of the Domo, when they first get to the island, and Drug and Cersei and Makari are down on the headland, getting the first time that they do the Unimind up and running. And also a big part of the beach. I mean, there's shots that are fully CG in all those sequences. There's shots where the characters are quite high-end digi-doubles. The fight between Crow and Thena in the beach cave, which ends up with Crow being sliced up. I think because the storytelling in that scene evolved in post, I think about half those shots are fully CG in that cave at the beach. So if that's not obvious to people, then I'm really happy that we pulled it off.
The fact that to us it was, I think what was the hardest is Thena on the beach. You see her head, her body is fully CG, and in most shots, like most of them. Matt, right? I don't know if we have.
Well, the only time we didn't do a body replacement was when in the Aztec suit, because because they were happy with that, but they wanted to continue to refine the design of her superhero suit in post. So, the first time that people got to see that, and I don't think anybody really commented on it, was in that trailer, that teaser trailer, where they do that shot where they're on the headland above the beach, where all 10 of them kind of step in and just line up in a towards the camera. That's the first shot that we ever get in a teaser trailer of all 10 Eternals in one frame. And we worked on that shot of her walking in. I mean, it's Angelina Jolie's head, but her body is CG, and because she's so iconic, we wanted that to really be 100%, and we worked on that for a long time. That was probably the last trailer shot that we delivered. But yeah, no, that's something that Marvel tasked us with from time to time. Eros's costume was completely CG as well, because they wanted to continue to make changes to that to refine that. Are we almost out of time, Ellen?
Yeah, sorry, my ominous presence loomed for about 2 minutes.
Yeah,
I just wanted to say that making sure when we are replacing the body of somebody like Angelina Jolie, for instance, or any other character, it feels simple. It may look simple, but it's incredibly hard, because we need to make sure that you don't feel as an audience that is somebody else performing what she's doing, and that all the connection of her body, of her neck and the rest of the body is working. So funny enough, in the midst of all that action, the replacement of Angelina Jolie body was the hardest part for animation.
I had no idea. So you guys knocked it out of the park. And I mean, I noticed a lot of details, but I had no idea. I thank you guys.
That's great to hear. I'm really happy to hear that.
I thank you guys so much for talking with me. Matt, I'm sure we'll talk again. Sidney, I hope we talk again in the future.
Anytime.